Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this DrayTek webinar. The topic today is network management using VigorACS, and I hope you're going to find this very informative and interesting. I'd like to just start by introducing the presenters. I'm Alex Shuker, Head of Technical Services and Product here at DrayTek UK, and I'm joined today with you by other presenters who is presenting today, Sami, who is one of our pre-sales technical engineers. So I'll just quickly run through the agenda before I get out of the way and pass you over to Sami. So we'll start with a bit of an introduction of VigorACS, what it is, and how it can be used with the DrayTek products. Then we'll talk about how you can configure your devices to log in to VigorACS. Quite straightforward, but it's something that's an essential part for you to know. And then we've got a live demo where we'll go through the capabilities of VigorACS and show you it using the live demo of the interface, so you can get a really good idea of how you can use VigorACS and the different sorts of activities and tasks that you can complete using VigorACS. Then we've got another bit that's slightly separate, which is SD-WAN. Not all the products support SD-WAN, but it's an extra bit of functionality which adds a more richness into how you can monitor and report on the product. So that's a really interesting feature to look at as well. And then finally, we'll cover a bit of some troubleshooting, some tips on the common things that can happen when you're trying to get a device into it or trying to manage one, just so you can understand and more easily use them. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So I think that's enough from me. I'll now hand over to Sami and he'll run through the main presentation for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and welcome everyone to the introduction to VigorACS again. I'm Sami, nice to meet you all. And yeah, so VigorACS is our central management platform, which allows you to manage all of your DrayTek devices from a singular platform. So as you can see on the top right, this includes modems, routers, switches, access points. And like this can all be managed via the TR069 protocol. So you will be able to access all of your device, like central management via the devices through any modern browser. If your devices have NAT or carrier grade NAT, that can also be managed as well. So if you have a device which is running on a SIM card, as we can see on the right hand side, that can also be managed. And all VigorACS can be accessed from any modern browser on a device. So for example, even your phone, tablet, laptop, PC, whatever. All of that can just be accessed from anywhere. And moving on to the next slide. So key benefits of VigorACS is that you'll have full visibility and control of your estate. So you can monitor the entire estate. As Alex mentioned earlier, there is SD-WAN capabilities, allowing you to monitor your VPN, VoIP, and WAN interfaces. You can also receive notifications for devices going offline, any WAN events that occur, any VPN events that occur, or any CPE events. So if any changes are made to a router, your WAN connection goes down, the router goes down, your VPN connection drops, anything like that, you'll be able to receive notifications for all of that. We also have maintenance capabilities, allowing for firmware upgrades to be done remotely or even scheduled, so you can set them to be done at any date or time. We also have configuration backups and restores, which will be stored within the VigorACS file manager, which I will go into later. We also have reporting capabilities, allowing for reports to be generated through VigorACS, allowing a full comprehensive or just simple breakdown of either the WAN interface or data usage or whatever it may be. Like it says on the PowerPoint here, they can be emailed at specific frequencies. So either once, or it could be a one-time thing, once a week, once a month, or daily even. And finally, we have provisioning. So provisioning allows you to automate changes. It allows you to make a single change to either one device or multiple devices. You can make as many changes as you want in one provisioning, like in one push. You can also schedule these changes as well, and auto provisioning will allow for the capability of zero-touch deployment. Moving on to how to add a device into VigorACS 3. So initially, you'll want to sign into VigorACS. Once you've signed into VigorACS, you want to select the globe icon on the left-hand side here, which is highlighted in the red box. Once you've selected that option, you'll then want to select the network management option and select on the root network. So for example, here on the screenshot, it is called DT_Sami. Then on the right-hand side, we can see within the red box, the username and password for the network. This is really important and we'll need to take note of this for later. After that, you'll want to sign back into the router and then select on system maintenance and then management. Within internet access control, you want to select allow management from the internet and select the TRO69 server option. You will also, if you have an access control list available, you also want to add the VigorACS server's public IP address as well. However, on this, you with regards to the allowing management from the internet and enabling TRO69, on newer firmware, you will not need to do that as it will be done automatically. After all of that is set up, you want to select the TRO69 option within system maintenance, which is highlighted in the red box. And then you'll be greeted with this menu here. You want to enable TRO69 and then enable the TRO69 server. Just make sure both of those are ticked. Then once that is done, you want to select the wizard option here, where you'll be greeted with another pop-up and then shown the server, port, and handler, as well as whether it's to be in HTTP or HTTPS. So you want to insert the server's public IP address or the hostname. The handler will be automatically filled. If you haven't changed it, then you can change it. By default, it will be ACS server/services/ACS servlet or servlet. And then if you have a port, insert the port as well. So the username and password as well will be the same username and password that we saw earlier within VigorACS, within the network management. So for example, here it was demo ACS, so that will be the network username and password. If your device is behind NAT or carrier grade NAT, you want to enable stun settings as well. So this will allow the CPUs to communicate into ACS. And then at the bottom of this menu, you'll be able to see that the device has connected to VigorACS, and it'll give you like a little green dot showing the success. We also have a test with inform button, allowing you to, if the device hasn't fully connected yet, you can just click on that test with inform button and kind of force the device to communicate with ACS. Usually it will inform every 15 minutes by default. So it will be, set to 900 seconds. So it will every hour it will the device will communicate with ACS 4 times, and just kind of make sure that it is online and active. So next we'll be moving on to the live demo. But before we move on to the live demo, I just want to go over the network topology that I have currently within VigorACS. So currently I have a lab network with a single public IP address in the and LAN that is giving out IP addresses in the 192.168.15 range. So I have a few routers and switches and an AP connected to the network. So first I've got the 2927, which is connected to the lab network via WAN 1. I have WAN 2 connected to a VDSL line via the Vigor 167. And then WAN 3 is just an LTE connection that I have enabled. And then the router is also connected to a switch as well, which is the BSP2121. And then I have that switch connected to a AP906 as well. Alternatively, I have a 2865 LAX 5G as well, which is connected to the lab network via WAN 2. And that is the overall network topology of what we have within VigorACS. So if I just switch over to VigorACS quickly, there we go. So once we're within VigorACS, this is the kind of landing page that you'll be greeted by, which is the main network overview. So this one's called London Lab SD-WAN. if we click on the top here, we can also see that we have DT_Sami, which is the other network where we added the 286.5 to, the LAX 5G that I was talking about. We have that located here. Within London Lab SD-WAN, we have two sub-networks being Test Bench and Wireless LAN. Wireless LAN is the network with the 2927 and the Vigor 167, as well as the P2121 and the AP906. So that is all of the devices located within the network management at the top. So more on the network overview. On the left-hand side, we have the map overview, allowing you to get an understanding of where the devices are within, for example, say you have a device located within Edinburgh or another one in, like Hatfield, one in London, one in Sheffield, wherever. You can see all of that, and you can see where all the devices are located as well, so you'll get that full breakdown of where the device is located as well. But you have to add that in manually, just to clarify. And then on the right-hand side, we have the network overview. Since this is a parent network, it will show the 3 different networks, so it will show devices directly under London Lab SD-WAN. Since we have none, it will come up as online 0, offline 0. We have the Test Bench network, which is the other network, which has two devices online. We have Wireless LAN, showing 4 devices online, which is the 4 devices I spoke about earlier in this topology. And if we go to the top right, where it says network, there is a drop-down menu. So we can select on this and then select the device. So here we'll be able to see all of the devices within the London Lab network. So we can see the 3 routers, the 1 access point, and the 2 switches as well. And we can see also the device names, as well as the device models, their MAC addresses, their statuses, and their uptime, as well as what firmware version they're on, and any active clients or any active VPNs that you may have enabled. On the bottom left here, we have the active clients, showing the number of clients over time. This is also broken down into which subnetwork has the higher client count. For example, here we see Test Bench has 14, Wireless LAN has 2. We can also organize this to be shown over the last 24 hours, last 7 days, and last 30 days. And then on the bottom right, we have the traffic over the last 24 hours as well. And here we can see that Wireless LAN has used a total of 8.3 gigs over the last 24 hours, and then Test Bench has used 7.8 gigs over the last 24 hours. Again, this can also be sorted over last 7 days and last 30 days. So for example, let's click on 30 days. It will then be broken down by date as well as the total data usage that date. If we go further down, we'll be able to see any new devices that are added to the network. And we'll be able to see, so if any devices are added here, they'll be listed here, as well as the IP address and the device name. On the left-hand side here, we have multiple different menu options. So as we can see here, there is a little line here which separates the top side from the bottom side. So the top side is view specific. So for example, if I am viewing in a certain configuration in a network, then I'll be greeted with these 5 menu options being dashboard, statistics, monitoring, configuration, and the hotspot web portal. Whereas within a CPE, we'll be receiving a different set of menu options, which I will show later. And then at the bottom here, we have the system settings. So this will remain the same no matter what view you have, which has maintenance, reporting, provisioning, network and service management, system, user, and about. So within the London Lab network, we can go into statistics. So we can go over the network statistics, and we can view the stats over the last 30 days, for example. Or actually, let's go into Wireless LAN and go over those, since that'll give us a more comprehensive breakdown. So if we go into statistics again, and then go over 30 days, we'll be able to view the total. For example, on the top left, we can see the usage overview. So we can see the number of wireless clients, wired clients, total number of clients, as well as the total amount of traffic. We'll also be able to see the bandwidth breakdown on the top right, as well as which SSID most devices are connecting to. On the bottom left here, we can see the clients as well, the number of clients that are connected, whether it's wired or wireless as well. On the right-hand side, we can see the total traffic. And then if we go further down, we can see which devices use the most traffic and which device, as well as on the left-hand side, we can see which devices are connected to the most. And on the right-hand side, we can see which user devices are being used the most. So here we can see 2 iPhones are using the most data at the top. So we can go over monitoring as well. So here we can see the alarm. So in monitoring, we can see alarms, logs, devices, as well as clients. So alarms and logs I'll be going over in more depth later. But for example, for now, let's go into devices. We can see the network devices enabled. So we can see which devices are currently using the most data and how many clients are currently connected to it. So here, for example, in the AP906, we can see 8 local wireless clients, whereas here we have 12 clients, but since none of them are wireless, they're 12 wired clients. So moving on to the clients as well, we'll be able to get that full breakdown. For example, let's select, and we'll be able to see also the connection time, how long they've been connected for, and which SSID they've been connected to, which gives you that good overview if you don't have SD-WAN enabled or have a non-SD-WAN device as well. So now let's move into a device. So let's go into the 2927 LAC. So this is the main overview of the device. This is what you'll usually be spending most of your time on and having a look at. So on the left-hand side, on the top left, we can see the port status, and we can see the lights on the router which are active, and we can see what the ports are active as well. On the right-hand side, we can see the WAN overview, and we can see which WANs are currently using the most data and which ones are pulling the most. Similar to the network overview, can be sorted by 24 hours, 7 days, and 30 days. And then on the left-hand side here as well, we can also see the device information, device name, the IP address, which network it is connected to within VigorACS, as well as the model of the device, the firmware of the device, MAC address, and uptime. If we go further down, since the device is connected to a 167, on the bottom right here, we can also see the VDSL stats as well of the device that it is connected to. As we go further down, we'll be able to see a bunch of different stats like the wireless LAN stats, default LAN stats, the wireless station overview, as we see on the left-hand side, VPN overview on the right, port status, the wireless LAN station list, the entire network, and any LTE information will be located on the bottom left here. Currently, my SIM is offline. And then on the bottom right here, we have the quick tools, allowing for backup and restoring the last config, as well as downloading the last config, and a reboot. So backing up the config can either be set to it being stored to the file manager or directly saved to the PC itself. So depending on that option which you have enabled, it will then do either of those two things. We can then go into a device, for example, like the P2121 and have a look into the switch as well. Similar to the router overview, we'll be able to see which ports are connected as well as which ports have PoE enabled, for example. So here we have port 2 enabled and port 12 enabled. So port 12 is connected to the router, port 2 is connected to the AP906, which I will go into afterwards. Similar to the router as well, has pretty much the overall same stats as you would see on the regular dashboard, as well as the connection status on the bottom left. And then on the bottom right, you also have those quick tools as well, which is available for all devices, which is quite useful. We can also go into the AP906 as well. And then we can also see the stats here, as well as the station list, which as well on the right-hand side, and see all of that information here as well. So now let's move on to dt_Sami, and then I will go over alarms, logs, and configurations with you. So on the left-hand side here, we have, similar to the network overview, we have dashboard configuration, dashboard statistics, monitoring configuration. There we go, that's the order. But instead of hotspot web portal here, we have advanced. So it is like I said, it's slightly different to the network overview. But yeah, first of all, let's go into configuration, and we'll be able to create any changes to the device. So for example, let's say we want to make a change to the wireless LAN, and let's say we want to enable or disable SSID 2, for example. So if we go into SSID now, we'll be able to view here that index 2 has SSID 2 as disabled but hidden as true. So for example, so we want to enable it but keep it hidden, we'll be able to set that. So once we will just select enable SSID and then hit save. So as we can see, it says parameter setting complete, and that the page will refresh within 10 seconds. I should state as well, any changes that you wish to make within the configuration menu will be done almost immediately, and any changes that you wish to make, for example, that you would usually make just directly connected to the router, can also be done purely remotely via VigorACS. So here we can see, if we look now, SSID has been enabled, SSID 2 has been enabled to true and is hidden. Another feature which is quite interesting is the diagnostics feature, which is quite good for engineers. So if you want to test a certain, for example, say you want to ping from the device, you'll be able to do that. So we could do IPv4, set it to ping through auto, and ping to, for example, 888, and then the source IP, for example, you just select that to auto, and then you just hit run. It does take quite a while, so I won't go through it right now, but you'll be able to run the diagnostics just purely remotely, so you won't have to VPN into the router to do all of that, which is quite useful for engineers. So now let's go into monitoring and alarms. So any alarms that will appear within the alarm tab here. If you have any active alarms, once all alarms have been cleared, they'll then enter the history tab. So here, for example, we can see that we have had an error on the 16th at 2 a.m. where the device went offline, but then came back online. So we can also see the clear time as well. We can see the MAC address and all of the information on the device. So we can see when the device went offline, had the alarm, and then was automatically cleared because it informed back into VigorACS. Moving on to logs. We can see here all of the logs done to the router, so any changes that had been made to the router will be stored within here. They are also organized by the category of change that was made, for example. So let's go into, for example, set parameter, since that was the most recent change that we made. We can see that I made the change as well. And we can see that it says status succeeded. It doesn't say what the change was though, which is quite annoying. However, once you click inside, you'll be able to see what the change was, the date, the time, as well as whether it was successful or failed. And you'll be able to see the result here on the bottom right, as well as the parameter as well. Moving on, we can also go into configuration again, and then just go into system quickly. And I just want to go over firmware upgrades and just a slight overview of provisioning. So firmware upgrades can be done either directly into the router here. So you can just select configuration, then system, and then within that maintenance section here, you can do firmware upgrade. So then you'll select the firmware and then hit upgrade here. Another way it can be done as well is via the maintenance section and then the firmware upgrade. And then here we can see we can create a job, for example, as I've created a job earlier to upgrade the 2865 to 4459. So here, for example, let's just click edit so we can view it. You would create a name for the job, select the status as to enable or disable. If you want to upgrade it, you'll set it to enable. You can schedule the upgrade time as well, so you can set it to be done immediately, or you can schedule it. You can select a date, a start time, and end time. So say, for example, I was to set it between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. Anytime the device informs on the, let's say, tomorrow, I want it 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So anytime the device is able to inform to ACS that it is connected, so within the first inform, it will then push the firmware upgrade and do that. You'll also want to select the firmware upgrade here, which will be stored within the file manager. So you just want to upload that here, and I'll just quickly show you the file manager as well. But then down here, you can select the device, and then so we have more devices on the network. You'll be able to select multiple devices here, as long as they're the same type, then same type of device, and then you'll be able to just select that here. So just quickly going to go over the file manager, which is where you want to store your firmware. You just click upload, and then you just want to push the upload itself directly into the file manager just to keep that stored. Configs will also be stored here as well. So here we can see we have 29274458 and then 28654459 as well. And then moving on, we also have provisioning. So provisioning is quite useful, allows changes to be made to the entire router, or to the entire, like to one router or to an entire network or to multiple devices. I'm not going to show you all of provisioning as it is a lot, but I'll just show you a quick overview of what provisioning is. So for example, we'll be able to add a device or add a job, a profile to a device, so we can choose it by sampling from an online device, an XML or a CSV file, or just creating a new parameter list overall. And you can also schedule this as well. It can be set to be always kept as well. So if you want to do want to make any global changes, that can be set. If you select on network and devices, you'll be able to also select the profile that we have. So for example, there is a demo profile here. We'll be able to select that, and that will push it to the entire network as a profile. We also have set parameters and keep parameters. So the difference between set, keep, and global. Global is more for large scale. You know, you want to make an entire change to the entire network, for example. Set is more smaller. You know, you want to set it to only a couple devices. And then keep would just be every time that the device communicates to ACS, it will just keep those parameters that it wants to be kept to. We can also do firmware upgrades via provisioning as well and create a job. So for example, let's say we do that. We'll be able to apply this profile and do, for example, set it to yes, for example, then select the firmware as well. And then it will push it to all applicable devices via the device criteria. So you would have to set the device criteria as well. So for example, we wanted to set it to all 2865s, for example, that aren't on 4459 BT. Then you would just select that firmware. So any devices, any 2865s that aren't on 4459_BT would be upgraded. And that is just a quick overview of provisioning. We do have a video online going into more depth on provisioning. So if you do want to check that out, you can just check out our videos on our website. So I'll now go back to the PowerPoint slide and just go over SD-WAN quickly. So there we go. SD-WAN within ACS is usually used to view the historic quality of each WAN, VoIP, and VPN interface. So it will give you that full breakdown of each interface, as well as the quality of how good that, just how good is the interface. So you can view each interface quality. We have VoIP optimization, as well as application visibility as well, which I'll show you in a second. I'll also just quickly go over the compatible models. So, because there are certain models that are compatible with SD-WAN, as well as how to enable SD-WAN, and then I'll just quickly go over a live demonstration of VigorACS's SD-WAN capabilities. So, the devices that are compatible with SD-WAN, for example, at the top here, we can see the DSL routers, which are the 2865 and 2866. At the bottom, we have our FTTP routers, which are the 2927, 2962, and 3912. Moving on to the next slide, how to enable SD-WAN. So similar to getting your username and password, you'll want to go into network management, select the network that you want to apply SD-WAN to, and then you'll just want to click that enable SD-WAN button. At the bottom, you'll then be given that option of bulk data settings, which is allows you to set the category of data to be for each, set the interval for each category. So for example, in profile 1, WAN and VPN and VoIP are set to report in every 2 minutes, which is the default. Users and applications is set to report every 5 minutes, which is also the default. If you then want to go into the network and then view the SD-WAN quality, we have a dashboard as well. So if you just click on the network overview, and then at the top where it says summary, if we look above the wired WAN, the purple box, so above that we have summary and then SD-WAN. You'll just want to select that SD-WAN option, then it will give you that full breakdown. Each category can be sorted over 24 hours, 7 days, or 30 days as well. And then, for example, on the WAN side, we'll be able to see the active WAN quality and as well as the MOS score of each interface. So MOS is the mean opinion score, which is a set of just the baseline score for what is a good internet connection. For example, low jitter, low packet loss, low latency as well. Then you'll have a high WAN quality score. If you have high jitter, high packet loss, then you'll get a lower MOS score. With the VPN, it will be depending on the quality of the VPN, whether the VPN drops, whether the overall quality is good, and pretty much same thing on the VoIP side as well. So I'll now go over a quick live SD-WAN overview and just quickly run through that with you. So let's just go back to VigorACS, and then let's select the wireless LAN network where we have SD-WAN enabled. So at the top here, like I said, next to summary, click on SD-WAN, and then here we can see the SD-WAN quality. So here we can see that within the last hour on the right-hand side, we can see the VoIP. On the left-hand side, we can see the wired and wireless WAN. And in the middle, if we had a VPN active, we would see the VPN as well. So on the left-hand side here, we can see that there's 2 physical active WANs enabled and that they have a great MOS score here, which is quite good to see. And then on the right-hand side, we can see sorry about that. I accidentally went back to the PowerPoint presentation. On the right-hand side, we can see the active VoIP call. So we can see that there's been 3 detected calls over the last hour. And unfortunately, all of them have bad quality, which isn't great to see, but since it gives you that clear overview of what it is, you can just go over it and then just kind of sort that out. So it gives you that great overview. If we go into monitoring and then WAN SD-WAN, we'll be able to view the WAN information. So here we can see the network overview for the WAN SD-WAN. We can see the interfaces on WAN 1, which is a VoIP WAN, and we'll be able to see the uptime, upload, download, as well as the latency, jitter, and packet loss. If we click into this device and then select monitoring, and then, there you go, WAN SD-WAN there. This can be organized by each interface as well. So we can see select WAN 1, WAN 2, and WAN 5. So for example, let's just stay on WAN 1 for now. Here we can see the data usage over the last 2 hours. Over here, it can be set to an hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, or any custom date, but as long as it's within an 8-hour window. So for example, let's say yesterday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. That can be just done within here. And here we'll be able to see the total breakdown of the WAN interface. So here we'll see the data usage as well as the upload and download. Below that, the interface and interface MOS. Below that, the latency, which is quite good, even though there are peaks, but 15 milliseconds, that's still great, like very low. So which is why our MOS score remains so high. We also have jitter, which remained consistent, but just that slight peak of 20 milliseconds. And then we have packet loss, which would appear here if we had any, which I believe, for example, let's go to the LTE. We should be able to see some packet loss. Never mind. Guess we had great internet connection all the way around. So as well, we can also go into data usage for the entire network. So let's just go back to the wireless LAN overview. And then click on monitoring, then data usage. So for the entire network here, oh yeah, right, it would take us back to the root. And then just monitoring and then data usage. Here we can see the total breakdown over the last 2 hours. So we can see that there were like how the breakdown was, which device also used the most data as well. So we can see that it was a computer and someone's phone. We can also see the traffic line chart as well, showing the upload and download as well. And if we go down, we can view which application used the most data. So if we want to organize it by download or upload, if we just select that, we can see that the HTTP protocol used the most in terms of download, and in terms of upload, we can see that Office 365 had the highest in terms of upload, for example. So you'll get that full breakdown within ACS, allowing for that full SD-WAN overview. So moving back to the PowerPoint presentation, we'll be able to view troubleshooting now. So some people tend to have quite a few issues when adding a device into VigorACS, as well as a few issues when managing a device. So I'm just going to quickly just run through some of the issues with that and how to remedy them as well. So first, we have the no response issue. No response issue is usually caused by a wrong hostname or IP address. So a way to check this would be to first check the hostname, check the IP address, and then also check that the CP can actually ping the server using ping diagnosis via the diagnostics tab. Next, we have unauthorized. So you'll just want to check that the username and password is correct and that it matches the username and password on VigorACS. At the bottom, for example, we can see that it says HTTP 401 unauthorized, and at the top that the username is missing an S. So that's the wrong username, since the full username is demo ACS. Another reason why that may also be an issue is because of the CPE client issues, which is located just below the previous window that we saw earlier. So within VigorACS, each CPE has a CPE username and password. If your CPE username and password has remained as default, just leave it as default. So leave it as the port is 8069, username is Vigor, and then whatever the default password is, you just kind of want to leave it as that and leave it unchanged. So moving on to the next thing, we also have test with inform, which is located within a device and is extremely useful. So test with inform allows you to run some tests and make sure that the device is able to fully communicate with VigorACS. We can also check, for example, if it stops at a certain point, then the CP is unable to inform to the device. Step 2 is the CP receiving the inform request, and then step 3 is ACS receiving a parameter value. And then step 4 is the CP sending the parameters. So the most common items to check with regards to troubleshooting is remote management also enabled on TR069 for the router? Like I said earlier in the beginning, key part of the setup. Is there an access control list? Does it have the VigorACS IP or hostname? Is the device also behind NAT? If it is, then enable stun. And also check that the real WAN IP is shown in the dashboard. And then 4, check the CPE client username and password is correct. Those are usually the 4 most common items to check. So just a quick summary of what we've gone through. We've gone through how to add a device into VigorACS 3 via the TR069 menu, a quick network overview, a device management overview showing for the router, access points and switches, configurations, monitoring and logs, the SD-WAN, and then firmware upgrades and backups. I will now be handing it back over to Alex and Doris just to go over some questions and answers for you guys.
Yes, thank you, Sami. So I've been gathering the questions that people have been dropping throughout the course of this webinar, and we'll try and get through as much as possible. So I will be reading out the questions, and Alex will be assisting with answering the question. So our first question is, why do we have to enable ACS management, and why is it not enabled by default?
Thanks, Doris. Yes, so yeah, as Sami showed, it's disabled by default, and you have to enable it manually. I guess that's because primarily the devices, as they stand when they ship, might not be used with ACS, and so they kind of don't phone home. So it's kind of giving you control over what you enable and what reporting there is. So you can very easily enable it, but it's something that we don't ship them with it enabled. You can, however, if you wanted to, if you're doing a large number of them, get it so that it by default it's shipping with that. There'll be partners who can for larger scale rollouts, if for ISP and MSPs, they can have it pre-configured with those as the factory defaults when it ships to the site. So then it would be then enabled by default, and you've got it phoning home as soon as it goes on into your ACS server. But we just kind of leave it disabled to start off with, so that people have control over what reporting they do, and also which servers, because you have different types of server. You've got the cloud hosted one, and also you've got self-hosted instances. So you've got control on pointing it to whichever is the right server for your purpose. Okay, Doris, do you have any other questions?
Yes, so the next question, following up on your comment about the various different versions of ACS. So someone asked if there's a trial version available for ACS, and is this for self-hosted or cloud-based, and how they go about signing up?
Yes, we do have a trial link, so anyone can get a 30-day trial for either the self-hosted or the cloud-hosted versions. To explain the differences of the two versions, the cloud-hosted is one that's hosted for you by us, whereas the self-hosted is where you would install an instance. You can install it on a physical server you own, or you can install it in one of your cloud infrastructure, whichever provider, there's various Google, AWS, Azure, etc. So the ACS can run on that sort of virtual instance. So you can sign up for a trial. I think we'll include a link to the follow-up for people, but I'll be able to put it in the chat as well, I suspect. I know, I think we'll just put it in the follow-up email to everyone with the sign-up URL, so that if you want to set up a trial, you'll be able to follow that to get a 30-day trial.
Yes. Okay, another question is, what is the maximum number of nodes that VigorACS can handle?
Okay, that's just dependent on the CPU of the server and the memory and the storage. There isn't necessarily a maximum. We've got different instances and customers who have kind of tens of thousands of devices. So it all depends on what sort of resource you've got in that. The sort of thing that if with specific requirements, it's a good idea to maybe check with your account manager or contact us. We can arrange some sessions to talk through requirements, like Doris or Sami or others can help advise technically on system requirements. There's actually server requirements on the website. If you look at the ACS product page, there's some information on server requirements if you are looking at self-hosting as well. So hopefully that partially answers it. But if anyone's got any follow-up questions, then either in the follow-up on here, put a comment, or you can email info@draytek.co.uk with any follow-up questions you might have for us.
Yes. So another question is, what DrayTek routers support the SD-WAN features?
Okay, that's yeah, that is a good question. I think Sami briefly showed that up on the slide, but I can run through. Essentially, it's the non-SOHO ones. So the 27 series don't support SD-WAN, but the multiple WAN ones, so like the 2865 series, 2866, 2927, 3910, 3912, 2962s. So all of those multi-WAN products support SD-WAN, but the smaller ones, for example, the Vigor 167 or the 2763, though 2135, those ones don't support the SD-WAN functionality. So it typically is the multi-WAN routers that support the SD-WAN functionality.
Yes, another question on SD-WAN is, does it come with additional cost?
It doesn't. So SD-WAN is just a function you can enable. It doesn't have any additional costs related to. I guess one of the other questions would probably be about actually what does counts as a node and what is the cost on ACS. It might be worth me just covering that. So with ACS, it's by node. A node is a device. So we like a router is a node. An access point and a switch counts as half a node. So if you've got two APs, they collectively count as one node when it comes to server capacity. And your account would typically have a certain number of nodes, let's say 500 nodes that you've got. So that means you could put up to 500 nodes into ACS. So that could be 500 routers, or it could be 300 routers, and then 400 access points. So just providing it goes up to a maximum of the number of nodes you've got, with the APs counting as half a node and the switches counting as half a node. And any SD-WAN stuff is just included. You just enable it per network, and providing the device is capable of giving that SD-WAN reporting, because it's additional telemetry that the CPE has to send to ACS related to the activities on the network.
Yes. Yeah, just a question just came in now. Someone asked, when ACS is hosted in the cloud with DrayTek, what IP addresses that needs to be added to the access list? This is access list on the router.
You can add in most of the routers. You can in the ACL now add a hostname. So if you put the hostname of the ACS server, that will be sufficient. The hostname to put in is the one that you're confirmed when you are given the sign up, the confirmation details and the login to the ACS control panel. So it'll be the same URL as not the same host name as the URL you use when you log into the ACS control panel. So that's all you need to do to add it in. If you can resolve the IP as well, typically speaking, they're on a single IP, the way that we've done that. So you don't need to add multiple IPs typically.
Yes. Yeah, so another question is, would you recommend creating a subnetwork for each location?
a subnet for each location. It is an approach you can do. You can have a network per you can have maybe a network per location, or you could have multiple devices going in. It depends on the approach, because there is a function in the routers that if you've got a router with an access point behind it, it will automatically in the network show the access points behind that router. So there are some situations where you might not need to create sub networks for your preference. But one way that I've seen that is very neat is you have one network per site, and that tends to work best when you've got sites that have more than one device. If you've only got one device per site, I've seen people just kind of have a network per customer and then have all of their devices in that, and then the device is named based off of the location. So it's kind of flexible, but there's no one right answer on that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So on ACS networks, well, how do I change the location of a device or network on VigorACS? That was another question.
Was that how do you change the
show? Yes, related to the maps. So devices appearing on the map on ACS. Okay. Like, how do you set the device location so it can appear on the map?
Okay. Yes. So in the place where Sami showed the network, there was the network interface where you've got the network username and password. Under there, every single device that's added to the network will be shown, and so you'll be able to see every single device. And if you go to that, that's where you can set the location by address, postcode, that sort of thing, or you can actually do the absolute location if you wanted to. It supports different formats, but you just in there put the actual location of the device, and then ACS will show that location on the map.
Okay, another question is, do I need to set up a file manager server for ACS, or can it store the backup internally?
It stores them automatically as part of the install. It has a location where it will store all the config backups. It's actually a directory rather than in the database, so that's a separate location. You can, if you wanted to, download those files off ACS through the control panel, but also some people will set up cron jobs to take them off from the. It depends whether or not you got the hosted or self-hosted. On the hosted version, it's not possible to do that, so you need to extract them through the front portal. But for some self-hosted ones, people do sometimes set up a download where they're automatically moving those files to somewhere else if they want to. You don't need to though, because it's got the structure, but it just depends on how you're wanting to use those files and how you're wanting to store them.
Okay, Alex. Okay, so this question, you mentioned that you can make changes to the routers through ACS, and these changes reflect in real time. How does this work for changes that require a router to reset, to update the settings? Suppose that's to reboot.
Yes. So when you make a change in ACS, what it does is it will send a trigger to tell the CPE to kind of phone home, and then when the CPE does phone home, that's when it receives instructions to make the changes. With changes that require a reboot, that would in some cases reboot the device. However, when it comes to provisioning, there is the ability to control whether or not you want the device to reboot. There's control, especially if you're doing kind of large number of changes using an XML file, which is maybe in a slightly different topic to this introduction. You have a lot of control over forcing the device to reboot for settings to take effect. But there are some setting changes like a kind of LAN interface change where it would be typical for you to have the device reboot. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, just to add to that, so ACS, there are various ways you can configure a device, so you can do it from the config menu directly on the device, but just that type of change will occur immediately, instantly. Whereas if you were to provision a device, so that requires a device to phone home, so it wouldn't be instant. It may take some time, depending on the interval of the periodic inform. So that may not be instant, but it will just update once the device phones into ACS and picks up that settings. Yeah, I think that's our last question for today. So yeah, thank you everyone for submitting your question.
Yes, thank you. There was you've kept. I can see you've kept Doris busy because she's been answering lots of questions during the webinar, which is great. To wrap up, I just wanted to thank Sami very much for the presentation. I think it's been very informative, and hopefully everyone's got a lot out of that. If there's any follow-up anyone wants, if you'd like, I mean, I'm sure Sami will be happy to do some demos with people, and if there's any kind of other things. So email info@draytek.co.uk just to inquire if you've got any follow-up questions. If you've got anything you want to look at, we'll follow up with emails of how to do the sign-ups for anyone who doesn't have an account. But just let us know if there's anything more we can do when it comes to further information. And I expect we'll get into more detail of some other things, diving into a little bit more on some of the config and in more depth later, so do look out for future webinars. And finally, sorry, in the feedback, if you've got any topics you want us to cover, please include that in your survey. But thank you very much everyone for attending, and we've really valued your input in the questions you've put in. Thank you.